about 2012, we worked out of Toller Lane Police Station at top end of Bradford. Great place to work. It's where literally as soon as you come out of the doors or drove your police car out of the gates, you dropped on it. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. You couldn't get more than 50 metres without either issuing a ticket, dropping on a crime, dropping on a criminal, or pursuing a car. It was just rife. Everywhere you went, it was rife. They used to drive past station trying to mock us and goad us into doing things. And at that time, the essence of being a traffic cop were brilliant. It's like at the time you were given money at that time, you were given vehicles. So we were all driving around in Vectras, VXR, so there were 2.8 twin turbo Vectras. There were rocket machines on wheels, so were uber quick cars. And the team that we worked with, Team 2 at Bradford, were fantastic. And it had all these lads that were massively like pursuit specialists. Some team you might have 3 lads on it, and some that are good at RTCs, and some that are good. All this team that we had were brilliant at pursuing cars. You were with the best of the best at the time. And I remember a job coming out, and I paid no attention to this job at all when it first came out. And it were a fact of there were someone going out doing carjackings and doing robberies. And it was one of those things where, does it fall under my remit? No, it's a crime. It falls under CID. We're not there to deal with that. We're there to deal with the pursuits, the RTCs, so on and so forth. It got to a point when the suspect was known to be driving in a Subaru and then goading the traffic cops. And I remember hearing on radio there were a traffic cop called Warren, and he'd seen this Subaru up by hospital in Bradford. And the Subaru just literally, as soon as he saw it and clapped eyes on it, the Subaru made off. There was no way he could go near it or get near it because the way it was driven were just too dangerous. There were things that you're probably looking 80, 90 mile an hour through the middle of traffic when kids leaving school, wrong side of the road, where you just wouldn't be able to pursue it. And he went off-road, he did everything he could to try and get away from these bobbies. This lad, who was being pursued at the time, was an amateur stroke professional, that sort of like level boxer. I think about 2021, but he was stocky, he was built, and he wasn't someone to be messed with lightly, if that makes sense. He was goading us, and he wanted to see how good he was, basically. That's what it was about. And anyone that drives a Subaru thinks he can drive fast just in a straight line. But you've got to realise that there's a certain point when that car says, it's all about me now, it's not about the driver. And it's all about what I am going to do. And if I don't like it, if I'm not going to be happy on this road, I'm going to tell you. And this car made off from 2 beat bobbies about 3 hours before, and it were in the area. We knew it were in the area. This lad, the crimes that he'd been doing, he'd been pulling women out of cars and literally attacking them, taking the cars, robbing them of the bags. He were violent beyond belief. This lad was what we would say were massively dangerous. We were on patrol in Bradford, and it were about 3 in the morning. And I thought, I'm going to stay out for a little bit longer just to see what's out and about. And I knew the lads at the time had all just gone in. I think it'd been a busy day. I'm sure that we had a potential fatal beforehand, and they'd swept up from that and be dealing with that, and then they went back to Nick. So I think I were the only one out and about. And I decided to go back to work, but go down Manning Lane, turn right up Hamstrasse, and turn right up Westgate and go back to Nick that way. Nothing on radio, silence, warm night at the time. And it was just that feeling in the air that sometimes when you go into something or you're dealing with something, sometimes it's a tangible feeling. I know it sounds stupid. It's like when you go to a football match or a concert and you can feel the buzz outside the stadium before you're going in. You know something's going to be going on. Everyone's on this sort of like level. You could feel it in air. I remember driving up to the junction of Hamstrasse and Westgate, and I just pulled up in car, and just as I come to a stop in traffic car, I could just hear this the sound of this Subaru that's coming towards the junction, and it just edged from edge of a building. It just came. You saw its nose coming out, and then as soon as it got into eye view, the driver had a visor down, so you couldn't see his face, but I could see from bottom part of his face. Asian lad, about 20 years old. As I was looking at the car, sometimes because you're a bit tired, I could see the number plate, but it wasn't registering in my head. And then I could see him look down. And as soon as he looked down, his eyes got me and focused on me. My eyes focused on him, and switch went instantly. And I thought, fucking hell, it's him. It's that car, it's that stolen car, and it's him. It was like a standoff, a Mexican standoff. Who was going to draw a gun first? I was looking at his car. He could see he was looking at my... I mean, I think if he'd thought, well, could I outrun this lad? What's going to be going on? And I started revving car, get revs up a little bit because I know what's going to go on here. He's going to go. I actually thought he was going to just go straight on through junction because he'd have got a better run up then and he'd been off, but he didn't. He anchored left and he just floored it. He just went and he were off, and he turned left down Westcott. Instantly my heart sank because I knew we're on for a pursuit. This is going to be a fast pursuit. This isn't going to be something that's going to be two lefts and a right in a decamp. This is going to be a balls out pursuit. Is this? Swung car round, and whenever a pursuit takes place, you have an instant bolt of adrenaline. This adrenaline goes straight up, but then it comes back down and plateaus because you're so highly trained to do one thing. It's all you focus on. You don't get tunnel vision, you don't get red mist. It's like you've just plateaued in your car. It all sort of like switches on all at once. In its second gear, lights go on, straight onto comms. I can't remember what it was, X-ray Romeo 52 urgent, vehicle failing to stop. It's the vehicle used in the robbery. Everyone knew about it, comms knew about it, FSUP knew about it, and I think by that time everyone's bailing out at Nick, and they're all obviously wanting to get on this pursuit and get this lad stopped. By the time I set off down Hamstrasse, the car itself, the power of the car, the back end sank down, the engine revved so hard, and I shot down Hamstrasse with him, and I was locked on. There was no way we were getting away. It was just a basic Subaru. It was an Impreza, but it was just a basic, you know what I mean? There was nothing pumped up about it. And I got locked on. As we swung left onto Manningham Lane, I overshot a little bit, but I overshot it to keep it wide. So when I come out of the junction, I'm in the line of traffic coming the opposite way so they can see my lights. Because what you want to do, if you're pursuing a car at that time, there's revellers about, there might be some members of the public, there might be some people just out going to curry houses that are still open at that time. So anyone that's coming out of the way, any taxis, you want them to see that you're coming towards them with lights flashing. You don't want to be blending in behind the car. You had no thought for anybody else. And if I knew at that point then what it were going to do, I'd have probably just not done it. I'd have just probably aborted. But you can't see in the future. You can't see what's going to be there. And I remember just going through gears at VXI and just watching revs go up, third gear. And I thought, right, do I go fourth gear? I looked at fourth gear, and then I looked at my speedo, and I'm going past Maestros in centre of Bradford, what used to be Maestros, and we're over 120 mile an hour. This is 30 mile an hour limit. Roads aren't designed to be driven on at that speed. There's so many, it's different on motorway, it's different on big roads, there's so many little undulations. Your car's getting thrown left and right in road. You're losing your front wheel, it comes up a little bit, it's skipping. Your traction control's coming on at certain little times because the amount of power you're giving your car, and at that time you're having to still do your comms. Yeah, we're now left, the Manningham Lane, 120 miles an hour, speed increasing. I've still got him in my sights, and you're having to give your plan over. You're having to tell your boss or the control room what's your plan. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get a helicopter. I'm going to get him boxed in. You can't say I'm just going to drive him till he crashes. It just doesn't work like that. As I'm shooting through Bradford, I can see the traffic lights at Queen's Road, and they go red. No cars there, they go red. But this is a route that taxi drivers use all the time. This is a route that trucks use all the time. Ambulances. It's a busy route. And as I look down, I'm increasing 120, and he's pulling away from me in the Subaru. At that point, I know what's happening. It's going to end in tears. It's going to end one way, is this, and it's going to end with him dying or me dying. He then swaps his car and alternates to the opposing carriageway, heading into what are coming around the corner at that point. And if you look at the road, if you know the road, you can't have a visual line. You're driving blind, and you're going to drive into the apex, but on the wrong side, you're just going to hit something. Goes through traffic lights, I'd estimate 130 miles an hour plus. And all he does, when he goes through, I can see gravel get thrown up from under the car. I just shout instantly, it's going to kill someone, abort. and in my head I'm done. I've pulled the switch. It's done. It's over with. The pursuit is gone. But because I've driven him to that level, even if I pull a bar until he's gone out of my sight and is safe, I'm still fully responsible for what goes on. When I see the gravel of the car, I can see it lean gently at one side, and then it comes up and it just goes gently to the other side, and all this is in slow motion for me. I don't know how it feels for a driver, but it's in slow motion for me. I know at that time that driver is already lost control of the car. What I'm seeing is the back end of the car, and him inside must be panicking left, right. And basically, when he's gone to the opposing side of the carriageway with so much weight on the back end of the car, the offside of the car, and he's going through, basically the car's got so low on one side, it's come up on its suspension, it's gone to the other side, and it's fishtailing now. And it's that point I just think, he's dead. He's dead straight away. He hadn't even hit anything, but he's going in tears. The car pirouettes, just spins in road, just goes all the way around and keeps going. And it's just an almighty smash of dust. You just don't see anything but a dust ball. But when you're looking at, you can hear, even through the glass of your car, with the windows shut at over 100 mile an hour, you can hear all the metal bending and cracking. I instantly shout crash, 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 but I'm 200 metres away, if not longer, and I'm having to brake hard on my car for it to come to a stop because of the amount of force I'm generating in the car. As I come up to the scene, the back of his car is folded up, so if you're sat in the car, you'd be instantly looking at the bonnet. It's folded up. It's backwards into a wall, up and through a bush shelter. So it's tangled up into this mess, and it's completely and utterly ripped apart. It's just demolished. And I thought, he's dead. He's dead. And as I'm looking to the side of the wall, I can see a body laid on grass. And I thought, he's been ejected from this vehicle. As soon as the cars come to a full rest, I can see him climbing out of the driver's seat of the car. And he climbs over this body or torso that's laid on the grass. He literally climbs over him, and then he starts to run. And I'm just thinking, well, someone's been ejected from the car and the driver's out or the passenger's out. My job is to detain that person. I know the person on the grass isn't going anywhere because he's laying there still. I stop the car, I open the door, and I'm giving comms on my radio, and I'm chasing this lad on foot. We're running through the woods of Lister Park, and because it's dark and I can see the lights over in the corner, I can see his silhouette, and I can hear him panting as he's breathing. But by that time, my adrenaline's now flushing. I'm basically starting to go deaf because of the amount of adrenaline pumping through my body, and I can see him. But I'm running with all this kit on. Like I said, I've got combat boots on. I've got big heavy combat pants on. I've got my vest on, my tack vest. I've got all my equipment. I've got everything else all on me. And he just leaves me. He just goes. There's no way I can catch him. I'm completely and utterly out of breath and I'm ruined. When I turn back round, I can just see a load of heads huddling around this torso on the floor. And I've got to sort of get back as quickly as I can. And when I do, there's this lad laid on the floor, and he's only a young lad, he's about 19. And from knees down, he's literally one leg's disintegrated and the other leg's completely and utterly degloved. All the skin's removed from the leg. It's all pulled down towards the ankle. You can just see bone and like fillet steak, meat, if that makes sense. But it's like a purpley meat because it's still active with blood. There's blood spilling everywhere. And the first person out there to give first aid was my partner now, which ironically, she didn't know it was me that were driving and I didn't know it were her. I can remember this lad screaming, just saying, help me, help me. We initially thought it was one of the suspects from the car. I spoke to the supervisor that come down when they were trying to do the first aid on this lad, and first thing you have to do is call it potential fatal. He's got no legs, he's going to be dying. As soon as you call it as potential fatal, the duties of the police are to remove the driver of the the pursuing car, which is me. So I don't deal with anything then. I'm literally treated as a suspect. A good suspect, if that makes sense, but I'm literally treated as a suspect. I'm thrown in a car and moved from the scene. I go back and an investigation takes place. Turns out that this lad is a 19-year-old reveller who has been out for a few drinks with his friend, and he's just decided to sit on the wall with his legs dangling over the edge of the wall. Just at the same time, he must sit down and he must be there 5 to 10 seconds. And at the same time, the Subaru comes into view backwards, comes straight past him, takes his legs off, and ends up in the bus shelter at the side of him. This lad's done nothing wrong. He's just a completely innocent party. But if it wasn't for me pursuing that car, it wasn't for me going and wanting to catch that offender, and I've got to weigh up how much I want to catch somebody to how much we need to protect the members of the public. What would you feel if it were your family member that had had your car stolen and had been beat up, mugged, and you knew I was behind him in the car? What would you want me to do? How would you want me to deal with it? Would you want me to carry on with the pursuit? What happens if you were this young lad's mother or father or brother or sister or cousin? Do you want me to abort the pursuit? Where's that fine line? Now, I think I aborted at the right time, but if I could go back, I'd probably aborted before he got to traffic lights. Would it have stopped the crash? I don't know. Would his speed have been at what it had been at? I don't know. You've got to understand the amount of pressure that you're under at the time as a driver to deal with stuff the right way, do your comms the right way. You're analysing the road layout, the speed of your vehicle, what the dangers are, whether there's members of the public, whether there's any vehicles. You've got to formulate a plan in your head of where this pursuit's going and what's going to be going on with this pursuit. And is it dangerous? Well, all pursuits are going to be dangerous. There's no way about it. You can't pursue a car and it not be dangerous. But this lad that's lying up floor didn't deserve to be injured how he's injured. I can't tell you how long, but I think it was months. I had months in my head of worrying, constant worrying. This lad was taken straight from the scene to emergency surgery. And I had, every day I was coming straight into office, waiting for that phone call, he's dead. Then would they be investigating me for dangerous driving, death by dangerous? Am I going to prison? This is how it's going to be, this is how my career ends. Month after month, and it just got too much weight on my shoulders at the time. And I remember going to see an officer who was dealing with a collision at the time, and I remember I was in tears, I was crying, and I said, I need to see this lad, I need to see him, I need to beg for forgiveness. He contacted the lad's mum, and the lad agreed to see me, so I went to his house, and I don't think I've ever been as nervous. I don't think I've ever been as scared and as resentful of something in my life. Went in through the door, and I think he'd been having a cigarette at the back, and he came in, and he was walking, but I can't remember if he had a prosthetic leg on, I can't remember, but I just remember him, he was a mess. Physically a mess, but his attitude was just brilliant. His confidence was brilliant. His forgiveness, he said it wasn't my fault. He shook my hand. He says, I've got nothing to worry about. He doesn't blame the police. His zest for life was 10 times what my zest for life was. It wasn't stopping him. He wasn't held back by anything. And you could see by his attitude and the way he was dealing with it, he was just pushing forward all the time. And he wasn't going to let something like this set him back. The lad that we dealt with for the crime got sentenced to a long time in prison. And he went guilty and got sentenced for a long time. And in my head, I've always treated the lad who was hurt as part of my police career and what I've altered in someone's life. And I carry that all the time. It hurts me to know that this lad has been physically hurt by me coming on duty that night. If I'd have rung in sick, it'd be normal, it'd be all sorted out. And it were only when I wrote my book, I put a chapter in my book about this incident on this lad. Now, this lad is local to where we patrol, and it got back to his family that we'd wrote the book. And the book was obviously doing the rounds, so to speak, and doing okay. It's then I received a message on Twitter from his mum, outlining the fact that he's doing really well with his life. He's studied at university for his degree. He's now a father of, I think, a 5-year-old child. He's still got the same zest for life, and his life's moving on brilliantly. His family, again, don't hold any resentment towards the police. They forgive me for everything that's happened. And they said I shouldn't carry this weight on my shoulders, but you still do. You can't alternate who you are and what you do. But there's not 1 minute of the day goes by where I don't think about him. And that's quite, I wouldn't say that's satisfying on my part, but it's something that haunts you. So if you think about how a police brain works, you see something and you put it in a little black box, something really bad. So it goes in your little black box, and your elevator takes it down to your basement, and it puts it on your shelf where it shouldn't go, and it gets locked up again, and then your keys get put in another lock, and then you don't bother it, and eventually your black boxes fill up on these shelves, and it gets so full that your shelf starts to overload and so being able to talk about it releases it out of that box sometimes. And when I got the message from the parent, I was really, it was sort of like it was dealt with, and I was happy it was dealt with, so it came out of that box. I don't want to cause anyone any more misery or pain, but yeah, I think about you all the time. I think about him all the time. I think about the crash all the time. I can still hear the metal bending. I can still hear the glass popping. You're a good person. You go out to do a good job. You go out to be a member of the society where people can say, if you're struggling, if you're in danger, go to the police. Not if you're in danger, don't go to the police because you're going to get hurt. I'm glad he's doing all right, and I'm glad he's forgiven me, but they're the sort of like jobs that you've got to, but where they're the jobs you've got to make that decision making in a split second, and where you're on a split second, that's going to ruin someone's life forever. So would I go back and do it differently? I don't know. I probably would. I'd probably abort as soon as I saw it. But yeah.